Hey guys, welcome to Oddcast. I'm your host, Joe. She-Hulk Season 1 just ended, and I wanted to give you a rapid rundown of my review for She-Hulk Season 1. Spoilers. Obviously. So, She-Hulk Season 1 follows the story of Jen Walters as she is exposed to gamma-radiated blood from her cousin Bruce and becomes the superhuman known as She-Hulk. Now, earlier on in the season, she does lose her job. However, don't worry, she doesn't stay unemployed for long as she does get hired by a bigger firm to handle their superhuman law division. It's an interesting take on what would happen in a world if superhumans were suddenly introduced. And since we all know in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they continue to grow what their roster of heroes and villains are and superpowered individuals, having law that applies to them is going to be important. So Jen heads her own division, hires her friends, and keeps things running. Now this makes it to where this is actually like a law dramedy, a fun romp in the courtroom, however you follow Jen Walters in her personal life and journey of growth, as she embraces not only who she already was, but who she's becoming because now she of course has superpowers. The things I love about the show. 1. The acting is great. I think all the actors did a phenomenal job. However, Tatiana Maslany definitely knocked it out of the ballpark. She does such a great job. She's so charismatic, and I just want to see more of her. So I'm really hoping that we do get a She-Hulk Season 2. One of the things that I myself complained about was this show's take on men's mental health. The first episode kind of left a bad taste in my mouth as far as the Hulk's mental health. However, they did address some men's mental health issues in the episode The Retreat. I thought that it was very empowering to see men sharing their feelings, being open with what their traumas were, and working and encouraging one another to grow as people. That's important, and I think it's definitely a markup in the win column. Other things that this show did, it introduced us to the ideas of street-level superhumans. These include people like the Wrecking Crew, or Saracen, or Manbull, who's a laboratory experiment. So it's just constantly expanding on this idea that there are those who walk among us with superpowers. The show is also littered with cameos, which I think is great. It means that they're not the true focus of the show, but they are an important and necessary step in order to establish Jen as not only as a lawyer, but also as a main character participating in a world that we are already familiar with. It also gave me the best cameo, the cameo of my favorite character, this hallway. Also, it brought us the big ones, which of course would be the Abomination, Emil Blonsky, whom we haven't seen since The Incredible Hulk, which of course was the second film in the actual MCU journey, if you were following the timeline, because Tony Stark is in the end credit scene of that movie after Iron Man. However, it's widely been kind of disowned, like an orphan almost. So it's nice to see it brought back into the fold as we move forward with the MCU growing in Phase 4. It also brought us back the Sorcerer Supreme himself. That's right, Wong. He had no grasp of the American legal system, which I can't blame him. It's really complicated and hard, and if you didn't study it, you're not going to know. Much like if you don't study the mystical arts, you're not going to know those either. Looking at you, Donnie Blaze. Also, it brought in the cameo that we all knew was going to happen, Matt Murdock. It was interesting to see Charlie Cox be able to bring that character into light in more of a fun setting where he doesn't have to be serious and super grounded. In addition to bringing back characters we were already familiar with, it also introduced us to new characters. My 6 favorite new introductions, of course, being Mallory, Pug, and Nikki from the law firm. And then, of course, you have the villainous Titania. You have the Edna Mole of the MCU now introduced, which is Luka Jacobson. And, of course, you have
Madison King. Madison is with 2 N's, 1 Y, but it's not where you think.
The biggest complaint, however, that you can see online is actually the villain of the show. Everybody's like, who's the villain? Who's the villain? There's no villain. Guess what, buddy? You're the villain. It's you. The people who are trolling Marvel online for not having a villain in this show are the actual villains. And Marvel does a great job of painting that in this production because they deal with all the sexist haters, all the bullshit toxic masculinity, all of that stuff rolled up into a ball and given to Jen Walters for her to then dismiss and destroy. Essentially, she's not just smashing the fourth wall, and occasionally Matt Murdock, she's also smashing the hatred that people have towards female superheroes. They essentially trolled everybody the way that Deadpool 2 did. When people found out that Domino was going to be in Deadpool, of course they did all that online chatter like, you can't show luck as a superpower, it's not a thing. And then of course, Ryan Reynolds took it and turned it into dialogue. Well, it's almost like Marvel did the exact same thing, cut, copy, paste. They went online, they paid attention to what people were saying in their hatred for Miss Marvel, or Captain Marvel, or any of the female superheroes, and they just took it and they said, this is probably what people are going to say about this show, and they ran with it. Even down to Jen making jokes about it throughout the entire course of the thing. And her main villain actually becomes an online trolling agency, Intelligentsia, which of course does revenge porn, slut shaming, everything that happens to female actresses online. This show encapsulated and made it into the villain. So if you hate She-Hulk, guess what, buddy? You're the villain from the show. I hope you're happy. Congratulations, you're now an official Marvel villain. Welcome to the club. That said, what's the next step for She-Hulk? Well, at the end of the episode, they break the fourth wall in probably the biggest and best way that I've ever seen, right down to marching into Kevin Feige's office, only discovering that he is, in fact, a machine. Knowledge-enhanced visual interconnectivity nexus. Nexus being the key word there to take away, because as we all know, Nexus beings do exist, and I guess that means that Kevin's kind of a Nexus being? So, where else do we go? Well, we know that Blonsky escapes with Wong, which means that Wong, in my opinion, is kind of forming a team. He's got Shang-Chi, he's got Emil Blonsky. However, Val is also forming a team. She's got the new Black Widow, she has US Agent. So, is Emil Blonsky's Abomination going to take the place of the Red Hulk now that the actor who played Thunderbolt Ross is dead, or are they going to replace Thunderbolt Ross with somebody else? With Matt and Jen hooking up, does that mean that they've become the MCU's new power couple? Or does that trophy still go to the couple that's not established yet, even though I think it's going to happen, which is a topic for another time? It also hinted at mutants at large, a lot, even down to Jen just flat out asking the question, when are the X-Men going to show up? So we all know that it's on the horizon and it's coming, and it's something that Marvel is thinking about. There's also so many hints at Deadpool and Wolverine in this show, littered in the background, down to the shinking noise of makeup brushes inside of your hands like claws, references to a man boxing with metal claws. There's a lot going on. Even the sneakers kind of tell a story that there are definitely X-Men walking amongst us. And then, of course, it all ends with the Hulk showing up and introducing to his family, and Matt Murdock, his new son, Scar, which we know takes place on Planet Hulk, which they kind of hinted that there's a movie coming for that, which I'm totally game for. I want to see exactly how that happened. However, Scar, of course, plays a bigger part as he actually is tied into the Secret Invasion, because he's half Skrull, and he's also tied to the New Avengers. And then, of course, we probably have the largest bomb that was dropped in the show, which is, of course, that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed. Now, I actually want to dive into that in another video, but if you haven't already watched She-Hulk, I highly recommend it. It's very fun. I'm glad to see that Marvel's taking chances, because up until now, there's definitely an argument to be made that some of their films have been cookie cutter, but one of the things I've always appreciated is that each film has kind of its own flavor and feel, and then of course you bring it together into a package deal when you put a team together. The Defenders encapsulated this through artistic styles and coloration. Also, that's kind of what they did with Werewolf by Night, which if you haven't already checked out the video for that, I highly recommend it. So what did you think, guys? Did you like She-Hulk? Did you hate She-Hulk? Are you one of the MCU villains? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're down there, hit that like, subscribe, and the little bell for notifications. That way you'll know when the new videos come out. This has been Oddcast. This is Joe. Have a great one and stay safe out there, guys.